What is going on, people? Welcome back to another pole position pod. Welcome back to the Japanese Grand Prix discussion we have had the past 24 hours plus. Obviously, we did the preview show yesterday, and I can pretty much say a lot we got right, a lot we got wrong. Some really unpredictable, events that happened. But big up everyone who's locked in. Big up everyone who's tuning in. Hit the like button on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're 25 subscribers away to 600 now, guys. We're getting ever so closer and even closer by the day. So, people, if you want to see more Formula One content, hit that like button. Don't worry. I know the Bahrain Grand Prix and the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix has been cancelled, but we're not going anywhere. We've still got Formula One stuff to discuss. We still got lots of news and everything to talk about. Max Verstappen. We got lots of news, lots of Formula One to cover this next month. So big up everyone who's tuned in. Big up to all the Formula One fans out there. And yeah, people, hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Big up Agustia. Welcome back, bro. Kimi Antonelli, Japanese Grand Prix winner. Back-to-back races, youngest driver ever to win back-to-back races. How you doing, man? Hope you're doing good.
Yeah, big up. Yesterday's stream, haven't slept since yesterday's stream. The adrenaline, powering through, fuel to the fire, just like a Formula One car. We're feeling fine, we're feeling ready. Interesting race, full of revelations, some quite remarkable outcomes, as Ekevin pointed out. Kimi Andrea Antonelli, the youngest ever driver to win back-to-back races. Not only that, the youngest ever championship leader in the history of Formula One. The 19-year-old teenage sensation is topping the championship standings ahead of the longest break of the F1 season, which is just something astounding. I think after Melbourne, most people would have been like, no way, this is George Russell's championship in a swift and supreme fashion. George Russell has a gridlock on this championship, but Kimi Antonelli, that generational talent, producing greatness and triumphant results, which is, at the same time, Kimi Antonelli has also done something that George Russell hasn't been able to do. Kimi Antonelli is the first Mercedes driver since Lewis Hamilton to get 3 consecutive podiums. That's pretty crazy, Ekevin, given that he has 3 podiums in a row, faster than George Russell has 3 podiums in a row. So kudos, Kimi Antonelli, grande, bravo, Kimi Antonelli, and the nation of Italy as well. And then, of course, across the grid, we had the resurgence of McLaren. Out of nowhere, Oscar Piastri, the man who didn't even start either of the last 2 races, DNS, the first driver since Bruce McLaren to DNS back-to-back races in the papaya outfit. Not only does he start, he was probably the fastest driver today, and had it not been for that safety car, that race win was likely his. Take nothing away from Kimi Antonelli. He was unbelievable, untouchable after he climbed into first place. And then, of course, you had, Max Verstappen. That we will have to discuss. That is the big bombshell of the show. For those who don't know, insiders close to Max Verstappen, the Telegraph in Holland, Eric Harvin, I don't want to butcher his name, it is Max Verstappen's go-to journalist. Think about your go-to journalist for a football club or for an NBA team. Your Shams, your Woj, whoever it is if you're an NBA fan. Your David Ornstein or Fabrizio Romano if you're a football fan. I know that's a polarizing thing. Eric Harvin is that to Max Verstappen. And what he came out with today, he said that Max Verstappen is now seriously considering retiring from Formula One. We'll get into that as well. So big up everyone. Nice to see you. And yeah, nice to be on the right side of the predictions and having Kimi Antonelli, championship leader as I called.
Yeah, man. I think you and I both said. I think I said. Wait, I forgot who I said to win the race. Then I said Russell would win the race yesterday.
You said Russell would win the race. I said Antonelli. I was the only one who said Kimi.
No, I think both of us said. I think both of us said Russell yesterday. I think both of us said.
Oh no! I 1,000,000% Kimi Antonelli was going to win this race. I am certain with that. Tifosi can fact check me. I was making the argument that Kimi Antonelli might be in the championship fight.
Somebody go back and check.
100%. I'm willing to stand on this. Tifosi, Bossa Blue, GK, whoever was in the chat, I'm willing to stand that I wasn't even making the case that Kimi would win the race. I said he would extend that and maybe even compete in the championship, which is something I think he definitely has the arsenal and ability to do. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Well, we had a 10-minute discussion on me saying Kimi Antonelli would win the race.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you Bossa Blue. Do you know why I said it? Because both of you guys have very similar profile pictures from a distance, and this is like, and it confused me the whole show yesterday. I don't know why, because from a distance, both of you had like players in your profile picture wearing red. So I was like, I kept on getting confused. My bad. I didn't read your names properly, so I apologize for that. But big up to Tifosi. So sorry, bro. I didn't mean to mix you up with somebody else. Big up to you, my guy.
Yeah, big up. Legend as always, man. MVP.
But yeah, man, I did okay. Look, I will say this. Yeah, I'm happy that Kimi won the race over George Russell. If I had to pick one race winner out of the two Mercedes, I think Kimi deserves it a lot more. I mean, George Russell, cool. He's probably won the most races. So yesterday, because we had a sprint race, right, in what was it, Beijing? Sorry, Shanghai. Excuse me. I keep saying Shanghai. And Russell won that one as well, right? If I'm not mistaken, Russell also won that one.
Yes, he did. It was a 1-2 Mercedes lockout. Hamilton in third, finishing on the podium.
Yep. So that's what I mean. Like,
You
out of the
prefer
two drivers,
Kimi Antonelli out of the two drivers?
a lot more because, bro, I didn't like the shit George Russell said before at the start of the season. He was saying that Ferrari was complaining, like, bro, like, what?
That's really wholesome of you, Devosi.
No,
From
no.
one super sweet guy to another super sweet guy. That's sweet.
I really do apologize, though, bro, for real, man. My apologies. Big up to you, my guy. Big up to you. No, but like I said, I'd rather Kimi because of the shit George Russell said at the start of the season. He was chatting a lot of shit, and I'm just so glad, Augustia, that Charles Leclerc. I know it's not a race win, but it felt like a race win. The fact that Charles Leclerc beat George Russell to the podium, it was so relieving. It was so like, bro, it was so fucking like. How'd you say this word again? Forgot what word it is.
It was fulfilling.
No, it was another word. I forgot what it was. I said it so many times on my United shows. So refreshing, I guess.
Fair. Yeah, I guess both work.
It's so refreshing to see. It just feels so good seeing that, that after all the shit George Russell said at the start of the season, Charles Leclerc ended up beating him to the podium. You can have the faster car, no problem. Ferrari with a faster car this weekend than Russell's car.
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not Ferrari, but at least Charles Leclerc's car was better than George Russell's car this weekend.
I don't think so. I think George Russell his setup. He had the faster car. He had the faster power unit, and he was far dominant on almost every part of the track. The difference is that setup. He couldn't extract more out of that setup versus Kimi Antonelli. It was just unfamiliar territory to him. Whereas Charles Leclerc was on the money from the get go. Like, he maximized Ferrari's output. Whereas George Russell, again, he could have done a lot better.
This is where I say, though, I think down the straights, I think George Russell struggles to catch up to Leclerc. Leclerc defended his lead very, very well. He defended his lead very, very well. And you could see how many times George Russell actually took the lead. Do you remember that overtake that Charles Leclerc did back on George Russell? Bro,
unbelievable. Stunning.
Unbelievable. What
the outside.
And just to steal third again, like, bro, that was an incredible way to end it. I know he only gained 3 points on George, but at the end of the day, 3 points can mean something later down the line. It could really mean a lot. And yeah, man, like I said, it was great racing by Charles Leclerc, and Ferrari almost knocked each other out. Again, they almost knocked each other out, bro. The way Charles Leclerc went around Lewis Hamilton in the very tight area. You saw it. It was like a very tight corner that he went around, and I was just like, bro, he surpassed like Lewis Hamilton. Like, I think the overtakes by Charles Leclerc, credit to him. I think the best overtaking driver yesterday was Charles Leclerc, or today, excuse me, was Charles Leclerc. The best overtaking driver was Charles Leclerc. You could see from the start, like, he was on it from the start, and Oscar Piastri as well. Like, do you know? I didn't think, right. Obviously, you and I spoke yesterday. I think I mentioned a little bit on the show yesterday. I mentioned about McLaren having a little bit of a pace resurgence. I think they were slowly picking up the pace. You could clearly see it on yesterday's show or yesterday's qualifying. because you saw that Piastri and Norris were slowly picking up, and then the way not Charles Leclerc, but the way Norris ended his qualifying yesterday, the way Piastri ended his qualifying yesterday, you can clearly see that McLaren is slowly starting to pick up the pace, and now this could really be a damping indictment on their momentum, because this could have really kickstarted something for them. But you know what? As a Ferrari fan, I would love to see some changes being made. A month and a half off now, some changes have to be made, because you've got a long time before Formula One resumes again. You've got a long time before you get back racing again. Make some necessary changes. Take some penalties if you have to take some penalties. You know, for the long term this season, we're only in race number 4 when we come back.
Yeah.
It's better to take the hit now than take the hit in race number 10 or 11. Whereas the points might be a bit difficult. Take the hit now, come back, and just show that you're more competitive. One thing I like about Ferrari, they're really competitive this year, and that's what I want to see. Be competitive. I know Mercedes are just a lot faster, and trust me, I know that for sure. But the problem with that is, how long can they sustain that? To make them sustain that for a shorter period of time, you got to make the necessary upgrades that you have to make. Don't allow Mercedes to pull away. That's the one thing I will say. Do not allow Mercedes to pull away. Keep gaining on one of the drivers. The way Charles Leclerc gained on George Russell yesterday, that's a sign. That's a start. That's what I want to see. Going forward, I want to see us gaining on McLaren and Mercedes. I just want to see Ferrari slowly gain on them. Lewis Hamilton had a decent race. Yes, he wasn't as quick. He still had a decent race for his standards, because you saw Norris overtake him at the end. He almost held on. I think the pit stop by Ferrari was a bit poor. I will say this for Lewis Hamilton's though. Not for Charles Leclerc. I was happy with Charles Leclerc's pit stop. It was a very good pit stop. I was very happy with it. He was the first one to pit, bro. He was the first driver to pit on the grid today. And I was like, that's it. That's how it should have been done. You know? And then they pitted George Russell straight afterwards. And then Kimi pit later. And then Lewis Hamilton pit during the safety car, which I don't agree with. I think he should have pitted before the safety car. I think the safety car happened at around lap 10 or lap 11, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember exactly what lap it was, or one of those. But this is what I'm trying to say. Bro, I'm just happy Ferrari are competitive again, and keep being like this going forward. Take the hit after the international break. It feels like an international break for Formula One, because we're not racing until a month and a half later. Come back.
Beyond it feels like a summer break on steroids.
Yeah. Come back with necessary upgrades being made, and improve the race pace, and I'll be confident going forward. I'm already confident in Ferrari, but I want to be even more confident. I want to be confident of race wins. I'm only confident of podium finishes at the moment. I'm not confident of race wins just yet. Albeit Charles Leclerc could have had a pole spot yesterday on the qualifying, but it was unlucky from him. So good way to bounce back though from his relapse yesterday. You know, good way to good way to bounce back. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, McLaren is slowly starting to pick up now, so that's one thing that could really, slow the momentum. Because if we had a racing in 2 weeks, McLaren could have really been. I wouldn't have been surprised if McLaren won a race next one. In either Bahrain or Saudi, one of the two. If racing was happening, I think McLaren could have won. Maybe one of the drivers could have won the race. This could really slow the momentum, because when they come back, we don't know how good they'll look. Obviously, they do have the Mercedes package, right? They have the Mercedes battery pack, because their engine is Mercedes this year. Do I think they can be competitive still? Of course. McLaren have been on fire since the start. I think for their standards, obviously they've not been as clear cut, but you could see that there's something there. They're slowly adapting to the new regulations, and I think this race shows that they can continue going forward, adapting to the new regulations and adapting to the new engine. So that's what I think on McLaren. George did get unlucky, but I also think he had the car he wanted. I just think Charles Leclerc was better than him at the end of the day this weekend. I think Charles was better. I think Charles was a lot better than George Russell this weekend. George Russell had a poor driving session. Very poor, very poor drive today. I think he just wasn't able to beat Charles Leclerc on the straights as well. You could see the straights. Mercedes struggled on the straights, albeit obviously Antonelli finished first. But you can clearly see that George Russell struggled against Charles Leclerc on the straights. Charles Leclerc outpaced him on the straights, in my opinion. And even in the turns, you could see that, okay, George was catching up. But you could see that Charles Leclerc managed to defend his lead. Because Ferrari is just so good in the corners. This season, Ferrari's biggest strength is just the corners. Last year, it was the straights. This year, it seems to be the corners. So yeah, man, I'm just happy that George Russell did not win or did not get the podium. I'm just glad Charles Leclerc beat him. McLaren looked scared at the start of the race, bro. The way Kimi Antonelli fell back to Oscar Piastri just like that. Yeah, man. I think McLaren are slowly improving. Slowly improving now. I mean, was that ever reducing battery made for the Japanese Grand Prix, or did we continue? I don't know. Hopefully, in terms of like what, Mercedes or you mean McLaren? I don't know what you're talking about. But sorry, you're going to say something, Sam?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that is a permanent rule to Tifosi about managing battery at the beginning of races. Yes, that is absolutely correct. Second, to everything you guys have been saying, I mostly agree with you. I think today we can definitively say McLaren have overtaken Ferrari as the biggest contenders to Mercedes, and I think that is a trend that will stay regardless of the track. 100%, because, again, the first 2 weeks, the reason McLaren weren't able to compete was because with that power unit, you had a weapon, the strongest weapon in the world. But a weapon is a tool, but if you don't know how to use it, it's a threat. It was a threat to McLaren because they weren't acclimated to the rigors, to the remarkable PU that the Mercedes PU engine compression does have. Whereas now, their reliability issues, negligible. They're a far more reliable team than Mercedes and also Ferrari, and that's what is coming out from the papaya paddock as well. Secondly, yeah, as we talked about, in their aerodynamics, their aerodynamic efficiency is second to none. In the high-speed corners, they have overtaken Ferrari. In the first 2 weeks, that was Ferrari's area of expertise. Today, McLaren have overtaken Ferrari at their own game. And moreover, what's happened is there's been a big shift. As McLaren incline, Ferrari are declining. Ferrari are struggling with the deployment. Charles Leclerc said that their power unit is their weakest asset, whereas McLaren, not only do they have that quote-unquote loophole/illegal PU of Mercedes, they are building a car at high speed that even Mercedes, pace-to-pace-wise, can't even match. So Ekevin and Tifosi, the reason I think that McLaren are the second best team in the grid comfortably is, put it very simply, Ferrari, no matter how dominant or successful they have been in certain facets, not once this season have they ever been able to go toe-to-toe with Mercedes till the very end of races. McLaren and Oscar Piastri showed, even if they have track position, they should follow through. They would, all in all, likely follow through and precisely prevail. So I think that McLaren have overtaken Ferrari as the second-best team on the grid, and I'm very confident with that assertion.
I wouldn't necessarily say the entire McLaren team. I'd just say Oscar Piastri for now, because Charles Leclerc was still better than Lando Norris. You saw when Lando Norris was
Sure.
You saw when he was gaining on Charles Leclerc. You could see that Charles Leclerc decided he still managed to defend himself in front. He still managed to defend his lead. He pulled away later on because his pack, or maybe his car was more durable than Lando Norris's. But in terms of Oscar Piastri this weekend, Oscar Piastri showed why he could be another legitimate contender this year. I think it's Oscar Piastri for now. Lando Norris still hasn't shown it for me yet. But for me, Oscar Piastri for sure. Not Lando Norris yet. This year. So far.
Yeah, look, Oscar Piastri, it's been second nature for him so far. This season, he's been very comfortable. The few times he's come out on track, even in the qualifying sessions, he's beaten Lando Norris, I think, in every qualifying session this year. He has just looked a far more comfortable and commanding driver in these new regulations. And Lando himself admitted that. He said that the reason he just doesn't feel comfortable is reps. reps and revs. He hasn't gotten enough practice with this, whereas the last regulations, he knew all the nuts and bolts. It was his car. It was his instincts. It was his impulse. He could impulsively drive the car rather than intellectually have to maneuver it, whereas with this one, he is struggling to get that Mario Kart level settings, whereas Oscar Piastri is vroom, 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 mushroom, 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 not blue shell like Lando Norris is. So I agree with you, Ekevin. Oscar Piastri at the moment is definitely the outstanding driver, but Lando's season is also going under the radar. We talk about what he did in Melbourne. During Melbourne, McLaren were comfortably the fourth fastest car. He held back a Max Verstappen, who was probably the second fastest car then. So I'm just saying, I think that Lando Norris, he has the talent, and he has been able to hold down cars that are faster than him, like Lewis Hamilton again today. So we will see what happens with Lando and Oscar. I think both of them, at the current trajectory that McLaren are developing, we should, unfortunately, that wet utopian dream of Mercedes versus Ferrari, the silver arrows versus the Tifosi, I don't think that's happening anymore. I think McLaren, the contenders who we thought would be an afterthought for the first half of the season, and at the minimum, they would return come the summer. Instead, Andrea Stella, Zach Brown, Pierre Wache, and the entire McLaren team have subverted that status quo and have already returned to contendership within race number 3, which is just super, super impressive. So, guys, if I were to do a status quo update, I think Mercedes are still the favorites, right? Especially until race 7 or race 5 now, the Monaco Grand Prix. They are comfortably the best team. McLaren are trending up, and in a few races' time, it would not be surprising if they were overall the most powerful and fastest car. Ferrari in third place. Then you have the B tier, Alpine, Red Bull, Racing Bulls, Haas. They're all in the same tier. Crazy, Red Bull fall from grace. And then you have the 3 worst teams at the bottom. So, yeah, I think that's how you look at the state of play at the moment. I just think that Oscar Piastri, I agree with you. He is definitely a top 3 driver on pure form. Probably Kimi, Oscar, and Charles. Today's podium probably reflects the 3 best drivers so far at the contending level this season.
And Piastri's still the better McLaren driver for me. Got a podium in his first actual race, and Norris was completely dusted as compared to him. I think this season I agree with you. This season so far, I agree with you so far. But at the end of the day, I'm still saying Lando because he won the championship. I know at the end of the day, we can say that Piastri's, he looks like a much faster driver on pure pace, on pure talent, sure. But Lando, the fact that he's won a championship, we can't really compare yet. Until Oscar can win a championship, then I'd rather compare, because it's about championships, right? It's about who's the more experienced, who's more of a winner. Because Lando's won, right? Oscar hasn't yet. Oscar should have won. Oscar could have won last year. I'm not saying he shouldn't have. He could have, but at the end of the day, Lando Norris won. So I'd still say Norris is a better McLaren driver, but this season so far, I agree with you. Piastri is better this season on just pure pace and just consistency. I'm not disagreeing with you there. I think both of you are correct about who's the second contender, but I don't want to say anything till the next race. Fair enough. Next race, you have to wait 1.5 months, bro. You have to wait a month and a half to give your thoughts. But don't worry, we're doing shows. Yeah.
Look, if I can jump onto that real quick. I agree with you, Tifosi. Obviously, it is way too premature to make some claims. I think your pragmatic stance makes sense. But at the same time, if we just look at the overall picture, objectively and the trajectory, Ferrari's strengths in the first 2 weeks that allowed them to compete with Mercedes, apart from their hot race starts, McLaren have already overtaken them there. And in that power unit, Ferrari are struggling with their deployment. This was the first week where McLaren had the most aligned deployment setup, even more than Mercedes. Like George Russell himself was struggling, as Ekman pointed out. So I think McLaren are comfortably the second best team at the moment. Ferrari are trending in the negative direction, and Lewis Hamilton as well. Ekman, I know you mentioned that McLaren are that you believe Ferrari are still better than McLaren overall. I was simply talking about the machinery, but even then, I would double down and say, man to man, Oscar seems to be better than Leclerc at the moment, and also Lando seems to be better than Lewis. Because of course Leclerc has been better across the season, but peak Oscar this season has shown that he is the only driver that seems to be able to compete with that Merc rocket ship. So, yeah, I think with McLaren, to me, I've anointed them as second best. And then, but the top 3 is simple: Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari. Everybody else is nowhere near the contendership. Red Bull are comfortably at the core of the midfield, not the top of the midfield. I'd put Alpine and Haas quicker than them. The core of the midfield, and that to me is the more bizarre revelation. Even though they have the new Ford PU, the fact that Red Bull aren't anywhere near here is just something unfathomable.
No, you're not wrong about that. I think contenders wise, I would put McLaren up there for sure. I mean, now we're seeing the better version of McLaren than we did 2 races ago in Australia. I think now is where they're starting to where they're starting to accelerate, and they're starting to climb back to that contending level. For me at the moment, I'm still putting Ferrari second, only because from what I've seen so far, only the competitors I've seen so far, Ferrari have been on the podium more times, and they've been more competitive towards Mercedes. They've been the ones who have taken the lead of the races, I think 2 times or 3 times already this season. I think in Australia we saw how Ferrari can actually compete with Mercedes. It's just the durable battery pack that Mercedes have over Ferrari. That's only advantage, because if that's the case, if Ferrari had the better durable pack, I think Ferrari would have won the last 2 races. I think Ferrari would have easily won the last 2 races. We've seen it already that Ferrari can compete. It's just Mercedes are more durable. With McLaren, they're using that Mercedes pack, so that's why they're climbing back into the contending spot now. And now it's working for them. Their car as a whole is starting to click into gear. No pun intended. It's starting to click into that championship contending. What do you call it? That championship contending sort of level, and I think they're closer to Ferrari than they are to Mercedes, though. At the moment, that's what I will say. They're closer to Ferrari.
I think they're closer to Mercedes, Ekevin. I know you mentioned race starts, but apart from race starts, what facet are Ferrari faster than McLaren? Not by the driver's form at the moment. Not by high-speed quarters.
Ferrari did beat a Mercedes driver. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but Oscar Piastri finished above both. And Lando Norris was quicker than Lewis Hamilton as well, comfortably.
It's just the competition from what I've seen so far this season, generally.
Yeah, I mean, of course, across the season, Ferrari has been the better constructor. The first 2 races, McLaren were ineligible, basically. But I'm saying today, and trajectory going forward, if you could pick a car to drive in outside the Mercedes, you would say McLaren is the quickest car. Because whatever the reason is, whether it's the power unit or not, objectively, they are extracting the fastest outcomes.
It's only because of the Mercedes pack. That's why you would choose McLaren.
Well, not really.
Why you choose Ferrari?
Their distinctive chassis setup and their aerodynamics is different to Mercedes and Ferrari. They opted for a different approach there, and it's paid dividends massively, right? They finally understood the means of how to exploit that, and today they are faster in high-speed corners. And like I said, we talked about Ferrari in those corners. McLaren beat them at their game. So I don't really know, apart from race starts, which race starts are about instant impact, and they're important. But eventually, in the arcade Mario Kart style Formula 1 today, race starts are no longer as important. They're not the be-all and end-all, because in every circuit, even Suzuka, for example, I'm sure maybe Monaco is the exception, in every single circuit, you can overtake. And if Ferrari don't have the durability, which is funny, the irony is last season, Kevin, the 4 of us on the panel, the 4 or 5 of us, we'd always say this about Ferrari. In qualifying, that'd be their Achilles heel. On Sunday, that would be their ability to ascend and win up the grid, right? Sunday race pace is there. Qualifying pace isn't there. Today, it's inverse. On a 1-lap, Ekevin and Tifosi, I think that Ferrari are quicker than McLaren on a 1-lap qualifying session. But in a race, when it comes to tire management, when it comes to battery deployment, when it comes to energy management, yeah, McLaren take the cake, and then high-speed corners as well. So I think for me, McLaren are comfortably the second-best team, and they have the 2 informed drivers relative.
McLaren beat 1 Ferrari driver, Ferrari beat 1 McLaren driver, McLaren beat another Ferrari driver. So
McLaren head-to-head beat both Ferrari drivers.
No, but Norris beat.
No, because
Norris
beat Piastri beat
Leclerc beat Norris.
Yeah, but you have to compare it man for man, not like that. Because if it's man for man, it's number 1 McLaren beat number 1 Ferrari, number 2 McLaren beat number 2 Ferrari.
Hamilton's car wasn't even that good this weekend, but it was still a lot closer to Lando Norris than it was last week.
He struggled with his deployment, his energy deployment. He was handicapped from the start.
If he didn't struggle, he'd have beaten Lando Norris, in my opinion, because he was getting closer to getting over the line. But it's just He didn't.
But he did struggle, and that's
It's because of the
inherent. That's not a track specific issue. That's a total issue.
I think it was the grip of his car that he wasn't able to control, and and the battery deployment was good enough. So that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm just reading Tafosi's comment. I'm laughing because
No,
that's just
you're not. It's not. It's not. It's not wrong. You're not wrong when you say this. Compared to.
No, I mean, Max considering retirement, leaving in 26. That's not a surprise. We all talked about that as a potentiality. But the last 3 races, him being beaten by his teammate, him being beaten by a Haas, being beaten by rookie Racing Bulls, being beaten by Alpine, being dunked on by Pierre Gasly. Yeah, that's the shock.
He couldn't even gain. He couldn't even gain a single bit of pace. Albeit towards the end he did. Like he was this close to Pierre Gasly, but Pierre Gasly is so good over the line because Red Bull over the course of the race, they just weren't able to gain any pace. They had nothing. There was no deployment. There was no the battery pack was poor. Everything, bro. There's just no race pace this year. And I told you, Augustia, I've said this already. I know Arvid Lindblad had a poor. He fell off to P14. But I genuinely think this year so far he's been better than Max Verstappen. But that's not me saying Max Verstappen's he's a better driver than Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's car is not good enough to race long term. It's not good enough to race long term this season. Red Bull have clearly not adapted to the new regulations. You've seen it in the last 2 races. Yes, Max Verstappen climbed up from P20 to what was it P8 or something, but that's because a lot of the cars below him are just a lot slower. But the fact that you're slower than the Alpines alarm bell should be ringing. You surely cannot be competing for a championship last year and be a lot slower than an Alpine car. It just doesn't make sense to me. It makes 0 sense. And the Haas, obviously unlucky about what happened to Ollie Behrman today. Colapinto did a good job. Yeah, it's just overall, I can't even it's hard to fathom what's actually happened to Red Bull. They had the finances to compete with everyone else. They have, they have everything. They have everything to their what do you call?
The politics had finally gone, right? The politics, the helmet mark or Christian Horner side had gone. Solely focused on technical with Lauren Meckies. He had the greatest driver of all time in terms of pure ability in Max Verstappen. Ford that are well versed in motorsport. And Nekoven, as you pointed out, they abandoned Honda, who look what Honda did to Aston Martin. Honda have destroyed Aston Martin. They can't even bring a car, let alone a competing car. Red Bull, especially beginning of the season, and they also had the engine compression loophole as well, let's not forget. The fact that they are only declining down the table and closer to Aston Martin than they are to Ferrari, that is beyond catastrophic. That is nuclear level concern.
I remember 4 years ago, Red Bull had the Mercedes engine, and then they beat Mercedes.
Did they?
To a championship. Yeah, they had the Mercedes engine. You remember that? I'm not joking. They had the Mercedes engine.
I don't remember. Maybe I blocked this out.
They had the Mercedes engine 4 or 5 years ago.
I don't remember Red Bull ever yielding the Mercedes engine package because that's the biggest.
It was Red Bull Mercedes. It was Red Bull Mercedes. I remember this. It was Red Bull Mercedes.
Are you sure? Because when Red Bull won the championship, right? You're talking the Max series, correct?
Yeah.
It was them and their partnership with Honda. That was the.
I swear it was called Red Bull Mercedes though.
Maybe I mean, from a lore and legend standpoint, that'd be better. But I think it was Renault, and then they came to Honda, and then now Ford. But I could just be making it up.
What happens to Red Bull drivers having 4 drivers in a row? There you go. But then, like I said, they had the finances, but they're not using it. They had the whole, obviously, the whole issue with Horner. They had the whole issue with now Lauren Meckies is coming. Now he's made some changes to Red Bull. Obviously, last year they had a bit of a resurgence after Christian Horner got fired. They had a resurgence from like mid-season. They were like, how far off were they from McLaren? 100 points down.
110 points off the lead.
They came back, to almost take the lead in the drivers' championship. So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, actually, bro, like when you look at from last season to this season, where was the incentive to make the car better? Where's the incentive to make the car better? They've got the most finances out of all the teams on the grid.
Outside Mercedes,
but they could have easily had a better battery pack. Easily, you have Max Verstappen. You've got Max Verstappen sat right there, trying to compete for another championship before he dips, because he wants to. He wants to go. I could tell by his body language he doesn't want to be there. The way he sounds on the radio, he clearly just does not want to be there. He sounds so not bothered. He just wants to retire. He wants to enjoy fatherhood. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to be there, Augusta. Last year, you could see he was swearing. He was getting pissed off on radios. This year, he's just like, yeah, man, whatever. He wants to go compete in the. The MotoGP. Bro, the guy. What happened in the MotoGP last weekend? He was competing in the MotoGP. He got disqualified, but he won the race. But he got disqualified. The guy wants to be in MotoGP more this year. You know. You can tell by his body language he does not want to be there, Augusta. He does not want to be in Formula One. And he does not like the new rules and regulations. Yeah. He does not like the new the engines. He does not like the everything, bro. He doesn't like it.
Look, like it. Max is a winner, and Max is a born racer, right? Racing is in his blood, winning is in his blood, and unfortunately for Verstappen, at the moment, neither is happening, right? And one, he doesn't have a team that he's even remotely close to reigning supreme. But that's fine. Max can live. Max can produce mastery. He can produce everything from nothing. He is the messiah of the Formula One grid, and I don't think I'm sugarcoating it. But the problem is, even if he does produce something, like he has a couple times this season with some stellar overtakes or pushing the car to its limits, the problem is the driving, right? In an entertainment perspective, for fans, we're getting more overtakes than ever, which is dope, which is fire, which is unbelievable. But for a driver, the reason these overtakes are happening is not because it's pure merit, not because it's pure team and driver skill, rather because it's about the Mario Kart mode. It's about the driver overtake mode. It's about managing battery. It's about managing energy. And that's one of the reasons I think Monkey D. Luffy makes a tremendous point here. If that's the case, it is going to be Bangkok on steroids. It's going to be Songkran. To put into context, Bangkok and road incidents, they go hand in hand. They're synonymous with each other. Songkran is a Thai New Year. That time is the most deadly and fatal amount of road incidents, probably among most places on the planet, at least most developed countries on the planet. That, if these F1 engines are used in regular cars, which is what we may be trending to get, you're going to get an infinite amount of road crashes. Road crashes might be the leading cause of death, because not only are they supremely fast, 100 km an hour or whatever, not only that, it's also managing battery versus pure driving, authentic organic driving fuel. That would be a disaster, and that's what happened today with Ollie Behrman and Franco Colapinto, right? We obviously saw the Ollie Behrman crash. For those who didn't know, Ollie Behrman crashed around, I think, end of the first stint, a 50G crash. Essentially, he was driving full pelt, full throttle, his energy had been charged up, his battery had been charged up. He was lining for an overtake. Meanwhile, the car in front of him, Franco Colapinto in the Alpine, he was recharging the batteries. So Ollie Behrman was going 50 kilometers an hour faster on the high-speed corner of the Suzuka Grand Prix. Obviously, you put two and two together, what happened? Supremely slow car, supremely fast car, corner, tight spaces. Ekevin, 1+1, crash. Not just any type of crash, a 50G crash to the barrier, which is more than Max at Suzuka as well, Max at Silverstone from many years ago, the Lewis Hamilton Max crash. So the problem is, Ekevin, and Max makes the point, had the game, the rules not been, both drivers, Colapinto and Behrman, they played by the rules. They didn't do anything wrong. The problem is the rules of the game are creating scenarios that are highly dangerous and such disparities in pace because you're trying to prioritize battery over pure brilliance of the car.
Yeah, because the loss of Horner, Newey, the old man, and new Aston principal. Yeah, possibly. It's possibly because of that. That's why Red Bull is struggling this year. They're going.
I mean, it's a lot of.
change.
Oh, sorry, I
No,
don't
no,
talk to you. A lot of
no.
dysfunctional changes, but it's also, as the point Ekman pointed out, the incentive. Of course, the incentive is there to produce a good car, a title-winning performance car, but at the same time, are they really maximizing their output? As Ekman pointed out, I'm not sure.
It's because a lot of them is it's uncertainty. Like,
Yeah.
what's the future of Max Verstappen like? You know, they're still trying to figure that out. You know, they're still trying to figure out whether they can replace him. You know, how are they going to adapt to the new rules and regulations? How are they going to improve their car? They're going through a wholesale of changes, and you can clearly see that even with the front office, you can clearly see with the team principal, change after change after change. Lauren Mekis is coming. You know, Adrian Newey had left a year ago or so, and then Christian Horner had left. The whole Red Bull team is falling apart. It's a bit like Man City. Tichy has left Man City. Even Omar Barada had left Man City. It's a bit like that. They're going through those changes at the board. That's why you see the transfers are not as elite as it once was. That's why the moves that they've made this summer, this off season that they had, they weren't as good. Bro, Augusty, if I talked to you 3 years ago, I'm saying Red Bull's winning the championship the next year. Why? It's because they're improving their car every single year. They were going through much better changes. They're improving their car bit by bit by bit. Even race after race, they were still improving it. Now they're not using their finances properly. The whole state of changes has really taken a huge toll on Red Bull. I think letting go Christian Horner mid-season might have played a huge might have made a huge damning indictment on Red Bull's future, because they should have waited at the end of the season to let go of him before replacing him. Replacing him now and replacing him mid-season is difficult. It's a whole different scenario. Like, you have to go through that change. You have to adapt to the change. They haven't. That's the problem with Red Bull. They haven't adapted to the changes. They haven't adapted to the environments, new team environment, the future of Max Verstappen. What are they going to do after Max Verstappen? Who's going to be the lead driver going forward? So much future uncertainty at Red Bull is why they're in this mess. But should they be in this mess? No, because they're 4 of the last 5 champions. They should not be in this mess. Red Bull have won 4 of the last 5 drivers' championships. How can they allow themselves to go from being top contenders, even last season you could see they were contenders, to now just falling apart? Yes, Verstappen's car wasn't as great last season at the start as well, and I will say that for sure. It wasn't as amazing, but it was a lot better than what we're seeing right now. It's a lot better than what we're seeing right now. It's a lot better than what we saw in the last 2-3 races. Verstappen's body language as well. He does not want to be here, and I promise you, bro, he'll make a decision during this 1.5 break. I have a feeling. And then Red Bull are going to go gun ho. They're going to say, all right, Max, you're leaving this year. We're going to do everything we can to win your championship.
Everything you said, the gospel, preach, and clip that, because that was very passionate and truthful. I wholeheartedly agree. And you made such a good point. It's crazy that even 3 years ago, even if we said that, hey, Christian Horner would leave, hey, Helmut Marko would leave, hey, Jos Verstappen would have a minimized role there, hey, Max Verstappen would have a better role, Lauren Mekis, a technical expert, would come into the fray, we would have still said, despite those changes, Red Bull's philosophy is always going to overpower the personnel issues. That's why Man City are prevailing. That's why PSG, regardless of the chopping and changing setup of players, or in Man City's case, players, in PSG's case, managers, they still manage to stick to their core principles, stick to their core purpose, and eventually prevail because they have such a dominant purchasing power and also that winningest mentality and allowing players to dictate their destiny. But with Red Bull, for some reason, that just didn't come into play. And of course, when we knew Ford came to Formula One, they're virgins to the Formula One grid, right? Their first time. They're new. They're rookies. We expect there to be a bit of a lag. We don't expect them to be as dominant as Mercedes are, 100%. But heading into the season, how Red Bull ended last season, how they were going to prioritize this season a bit, and then the rumors, how they also benefited from the engine compression loophole as well. They were gaining more horsepower each lap against and above the engine compression law. You thought, hang on a minute, Red Bull are producing something that is a competent car that can compete to Mercedes. Ekevin, remember we all said, you, me, Tavosi, we all said that Max Verstappen is a contender. We all said that Red Bull might be the second best team to Mercedes as well. That's what we were talking about. But suddenly, it's not even the PU that's the problem. Their chassis, they can't integrate their chassis system. They have no grip. They seem to be the only car that they are fighting the car more than they are fighting the opposition. You've seen how much Max has complained about it. So when it comes to Verstappen, the updates on Verstappen is, of course, we talked about how he's weighing up retiring from Formula One to pursue other ventures, which makes sense. Again, he's also a father now. Being a father, something that Fernando Alonso, for the longest time, up until this weekend, congratulations, Fernando Alonso, first-time father, and also Lewis Hamilton as well, that they haven't been fathers, right? They have been solely and completely dedicated and devoted to Formula One. Verstappen is a father now. His values have changed as a man. His priorities have shifted. Also, if he's not winning, and if the game is no longer harnessing those core principles of meritocracy, competitiveness, racing instinct, he's gone. There's no reason for him to be in Formula One. So what's happened is Max will likely retire unless the FIA makes some changes. So either it's a political move or it's just a procession into he's leaving. And the update is he is set to meet Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula One, a private meeting sometime over the next few weeks to hash out these issues. So for those holding on to hope, there is a chance that Max Verstappen can single-handedly subvert the template, amend the regulations a bit, or if he doesn't, he'll just bow out of Formula One, probably come back a few years down the line.
Pull like a Michael Jordan, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Go to baseball,
like,
go to NASCAR.
He'll go to MotoGP and come back to Formula One. That's what he'll do.
Maybe.
I think MotoGP because I think Verstappen does want to go MotoGP. He's kind of. I mean, you saw last weekend he won, but he got disqualified. So I mean, at the end of the day, he's still Max Verstappen. He's still doing what he's doing in MotoGP that he was in Formula One. So I think MotoGP could be a sport that he could go to and come back to Formula One after a few years, take a break from the new regulations, the new rules, and if Formula One makes changes, then he might come back. If not,
maybe. But I think the aim for Max Verstappen is to dominate racing. So maybe not NASCAR, but Le Mans will certainly be on his radar, of course, in all the different types of racing events. He's just gonna want to have the greatest racing career of all time, and that's absolutely something that he can achieve. Having an F1 engine doesn't mean they'll allow the car to go above 200 km an hour. Yeah, but again, if we're suggesting an F1 engines are inherently designed for that output. So of course you can sandbag and decrease the power, but I think you were also referring to, if I'm not mistaken, the battery management, and that's the bigger concern. If it's already causing volatility on the grid, think about the amount of road crashes and incidents there will be from amateur, rookie, no ability drivers.
Cars that are running on battery, they run out of battery in the middle of the road, their car's not going to move. And by the time it takes them to get to another battery station, you're going to have an insane amount of traffic as well. The amount of cars that are blocking the roads, the amount of cars.
And think about the highways especially.
Exactly.
It's a highway. It's a one-way roadway to upstairs, man.
Exactly. She and Pep were teammates, but this is exactly my point. The guy that Verstappen was working with is now gone. Yeah. So who's going to work with Verstappen going forward? Lauren Mackey's ain't going to work with Verstappen. Josh Verstappen, I don't know what he's going to do. He's not really working with Verstappen. He should be Max Verstappen's dad. Nothing else. He hasn't done anything much to help Verstappen this season. So no, like I said, they need to make these wholesale changes. Because after Max Verstappen leaves, I don't think he comes back to Red Bull. If he is to come back to Formula One, I don't think he comes back to Red Bull. I think he goes to another team. I think there's a huge chance he goes to another team. And I think Arvid Lindblad takes his seat next season. Yeah. I doubt next season Max Verstappen's going to be a Ferrari driver, a Red Bull driver.
Definitely not. I do not see that under any circumstances.
I don't see him being a Red Bull driver come the start of next season. Once we go back to Melbourne next season in March, I don't see him being the driver that starts for Red Bull. I think Arvid Lindblad will get promoted to the main team, and I think they'll just continue producing talent like they have been doing the Red Bull Academy. They're still going to continue doing that. So yeah, at the moment, as things stand, I think Verstappen will be gone after this year. I don't know if he'll permanently retire, but he'll take a break from Formula One. That's what I predict. And when he comes back, he'll go to another team. He's not going to go back to Red Bull. Because I think, like I said, and I'll say it again, I think Arvid Lindblad will be in the seat. Or it'll be Isaac Hadjar in the number 1 seat and Arvid Lindblad as the number 2 driver. And that's competitive enough. Because I think both drivers are very talented and very competitive. So I think Red Bull do have a future going forward. They have to trust their academy. They have to trust their drivers' academy on producing those drivers. But it's about sorting that team going forward, sorting that front office, sort out their team principal, try and lure in some decent-ish team principals, some free agents next season, some free agents going into next season. Whoever's available, bring them in. Some up-and-coming, new team principals. Someone that is good enough to run the team going forward. Maybe if Adrian Newey, all of a sudden, for example, he decides to leave Aston Martin, bring him back. You bring him back. If, for example, like a Fred Vasseur leaves Ferrari, you bring Fred Vasseur in. Fred Vasseur is a decent team principal. He's a very good team principal. I think Fred Vasseur is very underrated. I think he's a very good team principal. And then, they'll do this whole where the whole Formula One grid will swap team principals around here and there. Some might retire, some might be new up and coming. It'll be like a wholesale changes, and they'll all swap around. So yeah, man, like I said, Red Bull have a lot of issues they need to sort out, and in a month and a half, they've got a lot of time to do that. Fix this shit up, man, because I want to see Red Bull compete, man. It'll be fun to see Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes all compete in the front row. I want to see that, because Ferrari are competitive this year. McLaren is starting to become competitive now after today. And you can clearly see that if Verstappen can compete, if the Red Bull fix up, their car is better than the rest. They're better than Williams, they're better than Alpine, they're better than everyone. Once it's sorted out. But at the moment, they're just not. They're just, they're just waiting for it. They're waiting for that moment. They're waiting for like an Alpine crumble. They're waiting for like an Alpine or how do you say it? Like a sister car, like the sister cars to not do well. They're depending on other cars to fail rather than make themselves improve. That's what I think they're doing right now. They're depending on others instead of themselves. And that's not a good sign going forward. So, like I said, I want to see them, Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren, all in the front row. All 4 of these cars will be very competitive. It'll be a very competitive race if we see Red Bull added to the mix. Albeit, yes, you did say Red Bull are better than a lot of drivers, and I agree with you. However, this season Ferrari are competitive, as well as McLaren. They showed it today. Had Oscar Piastri been able to race in Australia, we could have seen a different result. Who knows? However, I want to see competitive racing. That's what I want to see as a Formula One fan. Not just as a Ferrari fan. Not just as a Ferrari fan. As a Ferrari fan, I want to see Ferrari do well. I want to see Ferrari win from a bias standpoint. As a neutral standpoint, I want to see it be competitive. That's what I tune into to see Formula One. Arvid also be my choice. Yeah, I think it's pretty much everyone's choice, to be fair with you, bro. I think it's pretty much the man to take charge of Verstappen, or I think Isaac Hadjar will take charge of Verstappen, and I think Arvid will take place of Isaac Hadjar as the second driver for the time being, and then they'll see from there. But yeah, man, like I said, Red Bull wholesale changes need to be made. Big changes need to be made in the offseason. And we are going to discuss a lot during the offseason, people, so don't worry about that. It is the offseason because it is a month and a half break. They've cancelled the next 2 races, unfortunately. Unfortunate circumstances around the world. Hope everyone's safe and all that. But yeah, man, safety is priority, and they have to cancel the next 2 races. They could have added a couple of races in. I know it is tough to plan F1 weekends, but they could have, replaced these 2 races with another grid, with another location. But still, no, like I said, I would love to see more competitiveness after the break, and hopefully some upgrades made by Ferrari, and we'll see from there, man. And hopefully Ollie Behrman gets well soon. A month and a half to take a break and get back to full fitness, because he did crash and had a knee contusion today, right knee contusion today. You saw the way he was limping after he crashed. It was really scary, and just prayers up to him, man. Prayers up to Ollie Behrman, for real. But yeah, man, I've said my points. I don't know if you have any more to say on the Formula One. Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris. You want to talk about Williams and all that, and Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I concur with everything you guys are saying. Tifosi, Monkey, Delafi, and Ekavin. Everything you guys said, preach. I just think if we look at the grid today, if we had to map out not what we've seen, but what we are likely going to see so far, if we had to put them into tiers, I think tier S, the top tier, Mercedes, tier A, McLaren, Ferrari, in that order, both in the same tier, of course, but I put McLaren above Ferrari. Then tier B, I put Alpine, Haas, Red Bull, Racing Bulls, and Audi. And then tier C, I would put Williams. I'd put Williams, Aston Martin, and Cadillac. That's how I would rank the grid. I think there are four different tiers. Mercedes, the champions elect, McLaren, the contenders, and will likely jump up, in my opinion, to that S tier very, very soon. Ferrari comfortably the third best team. Then I think it's a five-way fight between which midfield team you want. On some given weekends, Alpine with that Mercedes P will be better. On other weekends, Audi with their setup will be better. On other weekends, Haas, the most reliable of the midfield teams, and of course Max Verstappen and Racing Bulls. You can't ever write them off. They have the drivers. And then the bottom three teams, Williams at the moment, just out of sync, out of sorts, lack the coherency, lack the capability. So behind the James Vowell project at the moment, it's a travesty, but you can't rule them off. Aston Martin and Cadillac, man. Cadillac, the reason they aren't lost is because at least they can get out on track more times than not. Aston Martin are still struggling. So, yeah, there's a big divide. But I think the divide at the top is closing, and that's something for Formula One fans to enjoy. And remember, the season break, while this is almost as long as the entire offseason, not just the season break, teams can develop. So Lando Norris can get on the sim. Kimi Antonelli can work on the clutch and his race starts. Ferrari and McLaren can cut the gains. Red Bull can do something. They can work a miracle. And come Miami, I think that's when we're going to know how the first half of the season will really go. Because after a month off, with that much time, with that much knowledge, with that much research, with that much CFD time, you never know. The order can drastically change that quickly. So enjoy it. Make the most of it. If you're a Mercedes fan, you're living in utopia.
I just think now it's time to take the hit. Take the hit to Miami if you have to. Because if you need to take a deduction, or if you need to take a grid penalty just for the sake of improving your car, do it. Because you don't want to fall behind Mercedes. You don't want to be a lot slower than Mercedes. Like I said, you cannot let Mercedes pull away, because if they do, it's over for the rest of the grid. It's over, man. So come Miami, hopefully we'll see some changes. Hopefully we'll see some upgrades, definitely. But don't worry, guys. We're not going anywhere. We still have some content for you during the off season or during the break. We are still going to have some Formula on those race weekends. I did promise we are going to do some F1 content based around those weekends. Just even though there's no Formula One, we're still going to do Formula One content. We might do like some quizzes. We might do some, just like a season so far talk, like what we learned from the first three races, or what we discovered, or what do we know from the first three races, kind of thing. You know what I'm trying to say? But it'll still be the same format. It'll still be the same, discussion, the same Formula One topics. Even the following week, we'll still talk about some upgrades. We'll talk about if there's some breaking news. We'll still have it covered on the channel, and I guess stay tuned for that, people. Also, any other shows? Not really. I guess my next show is the NBA show on Monday. I guess that's the next show I have. I don't think I'm back live. Oh yeah, NBA show. That's it. Yeah, NBA show is live tomorrow. I don't think I'm live for any of the shows, unless I might do a solo live for the United show, talking all things Man United, talking about the news, contract situation, Maguire, Copy Manu's contract situation, and everything. But that's it, I guess. Big up to Fosi, big up Monkey Luffy in the chat, big up everyone who is tuned in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We are 25 subscribers away to 600. We're getting ever so closer, guys. At least by the time March ends, can we at least get to within 15? Can we get to at least within 15 subscribers away from 600? Come on, guys. You know the drill already. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe if you're new. Support everyone. Leave a comment, leave a like. And like I said, interact with us, because I will respond to your comments. And I guess you will respond as well. I don't know what else I was gonna say. Oh yeah, about the grid. We can definitely do the grid ranking based off this season expectations as well. But if I'm saying based off expectations, I'm putting Red Bull in C or something. If we're talking expectations, if we're talking the last 2 or 3 races, maybe they are in the B or C tier, just about. But I'm still putting Ferrari above McLaren just for now, only from what I've seen in the last 2 races. Albeit today, yes, McLaren did look a lot faster, but Ferrari still the last 2 races so far have been a lot better and more competitive towards Mercedes than Red Bull, the McLaren, because McLaren have barely touched Mercedes until today. Ferrari have been the last two. Ferrari have been the only car to have touched Mercedes. You know what I'm trying to say. But that's all we have for today, guys. Any last thoughts before we go? Any last comments?
Nope. Enjoy the break, and remember, we are 2 months away from the summer of no sleep, the summer of sports on steroids, the World Cup, F1, NBA Finals, and also Wimbledon. It is going to be manic, and enjoy it. It's going to be magical. Best summer we've had since 2018.
We will do.
Yes,
this.
great idea. That's
we will do
genius idea. I hope you both are there for that as well.
100%. Tifosi, I would like you to join if you can sometime, bro. But let me know if your schedule's busy. Don't worry about it, man. I won't force you if your schedule's a bit tight and all that. But yeah, I will see you guys next on Monday for the NBA show, and you'll see this man for the SummerSlam because we've got a lot of shows. You'll see this man pretty much every single show. I'm pretty much every show. We're doing all out sports talk specials. We're doing weekly. We're doing weekly all out sports talks. So obviously, there's World Cup. We have Formula One. We have tennis. The NBA Finals pre World Cup and maybe during the World Cup, just a little bit. Hopefully, we got lots to discuss, guys, and we're not going anywhere from that. In May, we've got Roland Garros. We've got a lot. We've got a lot of shows. So don't worry, guys. We ain't going nowhere, man.
It's relentless. It's relentless and endless, and we are there for it.
Obviously, we do have Premier League fixture release as well. That's going to be done in due time. So, yeah, that's it, I guess. But stay tuned for the scheduled shows. Next show is the NBA show, so stay tuned to that, people. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new around here. We are out. Now, I appreciate you, my guy. But I don't mean to make this sound as a little bit weird. Tifosi's been third wheeling in the Formula One shows.
Hey, he's not been third. Yeah, maybe if he's a third wheel, he's the most outstanding of the trio.
Oh yeah, he's the outstanding for sure.
Yeah.
He's definitely the most outstanding of the trio, man, 100%. But looking to add you to the panel, man, for sure. Looking to bring you back. You have been on the panel before. We're looking to bring you back for sure. And like I said, stay tuned for some. Sorry, go on.
I don't interrupt it. Hopefully, we get Tifosi back and also a certain McLaren fan back as well. It's about time that he comes back.
Don't worry.
No excuse why he's been docking.
If you guys want to see David Crofty on the channel, hit the like button.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Maybe we'll get the drivers. Maybe the weeks the Grand Prix isn't happening, we'll get Max on the show. Just vent his frustration. Man.
It's lights out and away we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the off season we go again. Back to the off season we go again. For the time being, but we are still doing shows. Don't worry, people. But yeah, guys. Stay tuned for clips. Stay tuned for uploads. Stay tuned for post notifications and just everything. Community notes and all that good stuff. I will post regarding this week because I do have shows this week regarding. We might do some World Cup content this week because of we will find out who's going to qualify for the World Cup. We're going to find out the final 6 teams that are qualifying. We're going to find out whether we get Italy to the World Cup or not. We shall see. But anyways, guys, stay turn your notification bell on, hit the like button. 25 subs to 600. We're getting ever so closer. Please subscribe. It'll mean the world to me. It'll mean the world to everyone supporting the channel. And yeah, man, take care, everyone. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment, and share. We are out. Forza Ferrari. Good night. See you tomorrow for the NBA show. Peace. Or a solo show. Stay tuned. Love.
W.